board. And then I will post this to YouTube and then go and watch it a bunch of times. And then we'll start having you guys pair up and do your own buyer and listing consultations. That way you can gain the experience of doing it yourself. So that'll be the next step after this week, is just kind of running through as much as you can on the buyer and the listing consultation, going through all the documents, knowing how to navigate them all. So Dan or Kyle, who wants to be the buyer?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Matter.
All right, rock, paper, scissors it is.
Kyle, you did the last one, didn't you?
He did.
I did.
Okay. Let me pull up these files real quick. I apologize. I was running
I'm going to
late.
have them on my screen shared,
Okay.
so you don't need them.
Okay.
And you're the
All right,
buyer.
I'm the
so
buyer.
that's what we're going through anyways. All right. So
Ring, ring.
first thing we'll do, we'll start either walking in a conference room right now, or we're just getting started on Zoom. And the first thing we do as we get started is the summary of 3 meeting outcomes. So I will get started in that. And there we go. So, hey, Dan, thanks for taking the time to meet with me today to talk with your home buying goals. As I mentioned, we take a consultative approach, which means we'll talk about expectations thoroughly in advance of starting your search so that you can feel comfortable and confident every step of the way and know the proper strategies that will allow you to win in a competitive market like we're in now. Some of it may be repetitive as we move forward, but know our process works and it helps us to work better together as well. As we get started today, I want to let you know that one of 3 things that could happen as a result of our meeting today. The first thing that could happen is that after we're done talking today, you see the value that my team and I provide, and you like me, and of course I like you, and you decide that you want to work with me, and that would be great. The second thing that could happen is that maybe I don't provide you with all the value that I was intending to give or that you needed, and you don't see the value my team and I have to provide you and decide not to work with me. That wouldn't be so great, but that's totally okay. If you have a question about something, or if I missed something important to you, please just ask me and we can likely cover it. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Perfect. The third thing that could happen as a result of today's meeting is that maybe I decide I can't both meet and exceed your goals and expectations. This hasn't happened before, but for example, that would be if you're looking for a 5,000 square foot, 5-bed, 5-bath remodeled home on Main Street, Fort Collins for $200,000, right? I'm good at what I do, but I'm not a magician. All right. Any questions about that, Dan? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Perfect. So the next thing that we're going to do is go through some questions that help me understand what's most important to you over this next month or longer in which we'll be working together, so that my activities and communication can be tailored to your personality and your needs. And of course, so you know how to best work with me. Again, a few are a little repetitive, but it'll make some more sense once we're done later. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Perfect. So Dan, the first question I have for you is on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so desirable and 10 being extremely desirable, what's one thing that has to happen in this transaction for your experience to be a 10?
I would think being able to get into a house within the next 4 to 6 months before our lease ends is very important.
Okay. So being in that house before the lease ends and just not having to worry about, being homeless in those times between, right?
Or having to do some sort of double payment.
Absolutely.
Afterward.
So the most important thing there is not having to double pay for some extra rent while you're paying a mortgage.
Well, potentially you're extending out the lease because we can't find anything. And then it kind of, the timeframes could bleed into the school year. And then we have all sorts of issues that can come up with that. So
absolutely,
timing is of the essence for us, for sure.
Okay. Timing is important. I'll make that noted. And if we could just add one more thing, Dan, what's one more thing that has to happen for your experience to be a 10 plus, for you to stand on the roof of your new house and shout, Cody Walker is the best realtor in all of Colorado? What could you think of there?
My wife would probably have to give you a 10. You can't really do anything to get a 0 at this point, but if my wife is happy, then everything else should be fine and dandy.
Absolutely, can appreciate that. We'll make sure that she gets top-notch care through this whole process, that she's communicated with thoroughly, and that all of her needs are absolutely taken care of, and she understands, what we're going to be doing, when we're going to be doing it, and that we understand her needs for this house. Sound good?
Yeah, it sounds like you're good at laying out the expectations, and she appreciates the communication.
Perfect. So appreciate you for going through that and just getting those questions answered for me. I'll have a few more for you in a minute. But wanted to get into more conversation about the location and some items about the house. I know we've talked briefly about what you're looking for. And then, of course, we sent you off to talk to the lender. So, what besides the Denver metro area is an area that interests you and your wife to move to? Do you have 2 or 3 other areas that you'd like to look in as well?
All of Central Park, North End, Beeler Park, Conservative Green, all the Central Park area, which is, roughly it's a big suburb of, Denver. And so we'd like to stay in the Denver zip codes so we get the
Okay.
schooling.
So up in that Northeast Denver area as well. And would that include all of Stapleton?
Yeah,
Okay,
that would.
perfect. So we'll include here Denver, Stapleton, Central Park area, and of course, knowing where you want to be in the most. And what are 3 things, Dan, to start with, that are absolute must-haves in this house for your wife and you?
It needs to have at least 4 bedrooms so I can have an office.
Okay.
I'd like to have some sort of finished or unfinished basement potentially for storage, and has to have a 2-car garage.
Okay. So 4 bedrooms is a must. Would that be okay to have 3 bedrooms in an office or an open loft as well, or just need the fourth bedroom just in case?
Yeah, any of those situations where it can be facilitated as something that's just not a big closet. It'd be nice to have a nice office or an extra bedroom that
Sure.
has closets of some sort.
Fantastic. And do you need a fenced yard, or are you looking for something a little lower maintenance?
That's not as important to us. The yard is what it is, depending on the location. Central Park has, tons of parks, and we don't have any pets that need a yard. And so it's not as important to us, but obviously more yard, the better for
Okay.
resale or decide to sell it or rent it.
And from last time we talked, a 2-car garage is still a must have, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we have 2 cars. We don't want to park anything on the street.
Absolutely. And after talking with the lender, I know beforehand we had talked about 650 to 750,000. After talking with that lender, did you have another price range in mind, knowing what the monthly payment would be, that you would like to stick within, or is that still where you'd like to land?
Ideally, it's like where we'd like to land, but we know that the prices in Denver metro area are continuing to rise. And if we see something that's a little nicer that might
Okay.
fit things perfectly, we have to be realistic to understand that you might have to pay for it. So
Okay, great. And if you could just add on top of that, maybe 3 items that you and your wife would like to have that are not deal breakers if it doesn't have, but if it's something that it does, it would be a real wow factor for you.
we like open designs, like the
Right.
open space design, main level, like hardwoods, on the first floor, or main level again, not really into tile or carpet. Um, yeah, those are basically the 2 that I can think of right off the top of my head.
Perfect. And any
She'd
items
like a
that,
bigger closet. I apologize. Let me throw that in there. She would like to have a nice size master closet.
all right, that sounds perfect. We'll put that master closet in there. And are there any items that are complete deal breakers for you, or are you leaving things pretty open?
No, I don't think there's anything deal breaking that I can think of off the top of my head, unless there's something you might have an input on something that might be a deal breaker. I couldn't think of anything.
Okay, that sounds good. So moving on to the next part, Dan, I know you had talked with Sarah recently about your financing. Were you pretty pleased after talking with her, or would you like another recommendation to a good local lender?
No, she seemed fine.
Okay,
Get
great.
it.
Well, we'll make sure that she keeps taking great care of you. Their team is absolutely fantastic, and I know you're in great hands. So, a couple more questions, like I mentioned, I'd have for you. This is more along the lines of how we can best work together, how you can work best with me and my team, and how my team and I can best work with you and your wife as clients. So, the first question is, how does someone win with you or do right by you on a personal level?
Obviously, open communication and honesty.
Okay.
You know, if you show up in a meeting with a coffee, you'll definitely get bonuses.
Absolutely. Okay. So just being open and honest, I like to say that my motto is I'm going to be very blunt with you and tell you what you need to know, not necessarily what you want to know in all scenarios, because when we're spending this much money and making such an important decision, it's definitely my duty to help you see things as you need to make a good decision. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, transparency is appreciated. We don't want to be misled. And
Absolutely. And Dan, on the other end of that, how does someone lose with you or do wrong by you? For example, a pet peeve that you have when working with somebody that we can avoid.
I'd say communication. If we communicate with you and have to wait 3 days to hear back from you, or have to continuously follow up to try to get a hold of you, that's something that we get annoyed with. I know my wife would for sure.
Absolutely. Okay. So just quick and open communication, which is, like I said, something that we have modeled our business around, knowing that one of the biggest complaints about realtors in general is that they don't answer their phones and respond and try and pull funny business and just beat around the bush with things. So we're going to make sure that you are very openly communicated with this whole time. As soon as I know of anything that comes up, we'll absolutely tell you. And also, Dan, just so you know, the way that I like to do things is letting you know that I'm very, very laid back, stress wise. And if I'm not worried about something, then you and your wife probably have nothing to worry about, which translates into if something does come up, most things are not a big problem. So I would prefer to take care of the problem first and just give you a solution and let you know that we already took care of it. Is that fair? Or do you want to know every step along the way, even if something is wrong with no solution?
I'd prefer that you to take care of it versus have to deal with the minutia of things. No,
Okay,
that
that sounds good. And I
I
agree.
can't
That's
control
exactly
it.
why you're hiring us.
Yep.
So, Dan, what do you feel that you have the right to expect from me and us as your real estate team?
Again, if there's something we need to know, tell us. I mean, in the end, we want to get the right price and the right deal, but we also the expectations again, and we know if we'll be able to get to the finish line, I think quicker if there's open communication that's honest.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree with you. And what do you feel that we have the right to expect from you as our clients?
We communicate back with you in a timely fashion as well. We're not going to leave you hanging if you have to answer a question or concern that we need to be involved with. We're not going to just ignore you and let you figure it out without our input.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to take a village here to make this happen for you and your wife. And I appreciate hearing that that's exactly how you plan to approach it as well. So thanks again for answering those questions. The next thing I wanted to get in with you was going through the home buying process. And I know you and your wife have bought a home before, that this will be your third home, but it has been a number of years. Are you pretty familiar with the home buying process, would you say, or would you like to go through a full overview of it versus just a brief touch on it?
A brief touch would probably be good.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll go through a brief touch and add a few other things in there, just so, again, so you know, expectations wise of what you can expect through this process and what I expect of you and your wife to go through. So the first step is exactly what we're doing today. You're meeting with a realtor to establish your needs and wants and differentiating the two because they are different. We'll of course work to make sure everything does happen for you. But of course, there is no 10 out of 10 house. We don't have an unlimited budget with the perfect choice of land, right? So the second thing is getting that pre-qualification from the lender, and you've already done that through Sarah. So good job being so proactive on that step. What we're going to do next, now that we've had a chance to meet today and you've already had that pre-approval letter from the lender, is that we're going to go and start searching for homes. And what the first step of that's going to look like is take all these expectations we've set today, and we're going to start looking on the internet at different listings on my website that suit your needs and establish what floor plans, locations, finishes are you a fan of? What are you not a fan of? Most of my clients only see 5 to 6 homes total before landing on their perfect house. I don't expect us to go see 30, 40, 50 or more homes like you might see some of your friends and family having done these last couple of months. That just means that we haven't narrowed down what you're looking for enough. So what we'll do again is we're going to establish all those needs very clearly up front And we're going to only look at those homes that meet your criteria and your price range. The last thing we want to do is set the wrong expectations by seeing a home you can't afford and having the rest of them not look like something that you'd be interested in, or even seeing something that's too low of a price and then having quite a bit more money to spend and being discouraged because you don't think there's something to purchase. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Perfect. So once we do find that home that you're looking to make an offer on, I like to say if out of a 10, it's the 7, 8, or a 9 out of 10 that we're going to make an offer on it, because there is no 10, which means, if at 7, 8, or 9, you're very interested in that property. So once that happens, we're going to submit an offer that includes a purchase price, an earnest money deposit, which is a typically 1% good faith deposit to a title company. We're going to set the closing date based on when you are able to close and also when that seller is able and wanting to close. And we're going to make sure that all of those other details are worked out at that time. We'll negotiate that contract on your behalf. As an agent, we can work towards your best interests with you in mind only. And we'll keep you updated through the entire process. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. So just a couple of days after that contract is signed by both parties, we will be what's called pending or under contract or in escrow, whatever you want to call it. They all mean the same thing. We'll send off the contracts to the title company, who will be the one to facilitate the transfer of ownership. They will take that earnest money and they will facilitate the closing at the end. So just a few days after that, within 7 to 10 days, typically, we're going to schedule an inspection, which will be the first of your incurred expenses. We'll hire an inspector, and I can recommend you a great local inspector. They are going to do typically about a 1,000 point home inspection and find everything that's wrong with the house. They're not necessarily working on your behalf or the sellers. They're just doing a checklist to find everything. That'll be accompanied by photos and descriptions. And you are suggested to show up for the last 30 to 60 minutes to get a summary and do a walkthrough of the important items, like where the water shutoff is in case of an emergency. Sound good?
Yep.
Perfect. So like I mentioned, your earnest money will be deposited typically about 1%. So in your case, about $6,000 to $7,000 will be deposited into a trust account. The title company will send you some updates and potentially ask you for some documentation to follow up on. And at that time, also the lender will be reaching out to confirm your employment, your bank statements, and things like that. During the inspection period, we do have an opportunity to ask for anything that you need fixed. We'll base the competition that we face and if they have any backup offers to see what and how much we can ask for. For example, is it a large health and safety items only, or structural, or a roof? Or are we trying to ask for some more cosmetic items or maybe a small credit back so you can get them fixed yourself? So we'll take that when it comes, like I said, about in the second week or so. And the seller has an opportunity to say yes, no, or yes to some and no to others. So we'll get through that part when the time comes. Any questions so far?
No.
All right. Once the inspection's done, typically in the third week, the lender's appraiser, which is a third-party company that does not have any ties to the lender, will send out an appraiser to the property, typically for 15 to 30 minutes, and they'll do a full review on the price to see that what our contract value is what that bank or lending institution should be paying for that house. When that comes back just a few days later, if it comes in lower than the purchase price, we would need to negotiate with that seller, and you would either need to bring some extra cash, which we can write in the offer saying that you'll do to make it stronger, or that seller will need to come down in price, or we can meet in the middle. We do have an exit point if you need to terminate the contract at that point. Sound good?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, we'll go through that in more detail when the time comes. Hopefully we don't run into any problems, and we will be able to anticipate something in advance if it does. So at that same time, you're going to go into what's called final underwriting, and that lender is going to check through all of your documentation again to make sure you're still employed and all of the numbers check out. Just before closing, the title company is going to schedule us out at their office. It'll take you about 45 minutes to sign your name quite a few times and just let them know that you will make your mortgage payment. They'll take the house. You will make your mortgage payment, or they will take the house, over and over and over. And same thing if there's an HOA on the property, as it's required to pay there. At this time, they'll transfer the water over. They can transfer the HOA for us, and all the utilities will be changed separately. That will make sure that you want to set those up to start on the day of your ownership. All right. Just before closing, we can do a walkthrough, typically the day before or the morning of. We'll just do a quick 5-10 minute walkthrough to make sure everything is in the same condition that it was when we went to purchase it. And if there's any major changes, holes in the wall punched in by couch legs, or the electricity is off, or the water's not getting hot, things like that is what we're ultimately checking for. Finally, on closing day, it's very easy. Like I said, about 45 minutes of signatures. And as soon as your money transfers from the lender to the seller, they will give you the keys. It's very simple. On that day, there'll be snacks and water, and it's usually a pretty good time. Any questions about the purchasing process?
No, you've explained it thoroughly. Thank you.
Excellent. So next, I'm going to go through a couple of the documents here. And the first one is the definitions of working relationships. As it says, this is not a contract at the bottom. It's just a required disclosure by the state of Colorado and the ways that we can work together. You'll notice at the top, it says seller's agent. We'll be working together on the buyer's side, so that one won't apply. We can work as a buyer's agent, a transaction broker, or as a customer. And I will be working on behalf of you as a buyer's agent, and I'll let you know why. And so that allows me to work with the utmost good faith, loyalty, and fidelity, seeking a price and terms that are acceptable to you. And essentially, if you've seen a boxing match, seeing the coach in the corner saying punch left, punch right, we're working as an extension of you to get your goals accomplished, and your best interests are above my own legally. So that allows you the best service possible. As a transaction broker, as a customer, we're really just doing paperwork and not advising you throughout the process. It just limits liability on us and our company. And I choose not to work that way unless, in a very rare circumstance, the buyer and the seller have come together and we need to do both sides. You do have a choice to work with just me and have me refer that other person out, and that will be done on a separate paper if so. Sound good?
Yep.
Awesome. So signing this one here just says that I've gone through it with you, and that is it. The next one here is the actual contract that gets me hired to work for you, Dan. And so this one you and Jess will sign at the end that will allow me to work on your behalf and become your realtor. And then, of course, I would be your only realtor, and you would be my clients in that case exclusively. So at the top, we'll have here checked buyer agency, as we just went through. We'll have today's date filled in. Section 2, we're a multi-person firm. We have about 67,000 agents here at eXp Realty. Under Section 3, we'll have your two names as the buyer, and we'll make sure those are filled out correctly and spelled correct. Next, we have my company, eXp Realty LLC, my name, Cody Walker, and we'll scroll down to Section 352 here, saying that our contract begins today, and I will push it out about 6 months to give us ample time to find you a house. If you feel the need to fire me ahead of time, or we close in a house for you, you can terminate this contract in writing so that you're not locked in. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. Section 3.8 is the computation period of days deadline. This is saying that if a date or deadline in the buyer's offer falls on a weekend or a holiday, state or federal, where the title company is closed, it will just move that deadline to the next business day. So we're not terminating over a formality like a date. Sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Section 4 here is just a recap of the last disclosure that we went through. They just want to make sure that you have it one more time. And Section 5 are all the things I'm required to do by law for you and your wife here as you hire me. So a couple of them I want to go through in detail with you. There's some common misconceptions that the public has, and I want you to know, again, exactly how we're going to work for you. So we will never disclose why you are purchasing a property, your motivations. We're never going to tell anyone that, because it gives them an opportunity to negotiate against you. If we decide that it's necessary for the transaction to survive or get you a better deal, we'll get that in writing before we do that. All right. If you make an offer on a property, verbal or written, I'm required to submit that in a very quick, timely manner. So if it's, after 9 p.m., I'll do it first thing in the morning. But otherwise, if it's within business hours, I'm going to submit that offer as soon as possible. And I will let you know as soon as I hear back, and I'll stay on top of the other agent to make sure they receive it and go through it with their client. I'll never tell them that you're willing to pay more or offer more on any other terms than what we've offered in the offer. That's for the seller to come back and ask for more, or for us to determine before we resubmit. Again, I'm never going to put your cards on the table for anyone else to negotiate against you. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Again, those things boil down into these three items. So promoting the interests of you, the buyer, with the utmost good faith, loyalty, and fidelity, seeking a price and terms that are acceptable to you, the buyer, and counseling you, the buyer, to any material benefits or risks of the transaction known by me. So for example, if I even hear of a whisper from the seller, we show up early to a showing, I hear him say, I hope that buyer doesn't find the crack behind the drywall in the basement. We've been trying to hide that. That's something I'm required by law to tell you. And of course, I would do that anyway, so that you're never stuck with that problem. Section 7 is the compensation section here. And section 711 will have it checked to say that we have a success fee equal to 3% of your final purchase price. That will only be paid if I have successfully done my job of finding you your home. All right. Perfect. So just know that some of the homes on the MLS, although all of them show an advertised success fee, that if it is below 3%, I will not charge you the difference, and we will have it written in the additional provisions at the bottom that you'll not be required to pay that. That way that you are not bringing any extra money out of pocket. Sound fair?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. The rest of this here is going to be left blank, which means I'm not paid in any other capacity, only when I do my job. That way you can just focus on finding that perfect home. So section 7.3 here is saying, however, it's one of the two periods or portions of this contract that protect me, is saying that the listing brokerage firm may pay, but you're obligated to pay. That's never come into play. It only happens typically in a for sale by owner situation, but we'll always tell you in advance of seeing it and work out a deal ahead of time. All right. Section 7.4 is the holdover period. This says that if you decide to fire me for any reason after I've negotiated a contract with you for a certain seller, that you cannot fire me and work with that same seller in contract without me earning my success fee at the end, just to make sure that we get compensated for our hard work. Section 8 is limitation on third-party compensation. I cannot get paid anywhere by anybody for any reason without prior written consent. And I choose not to do that at all, even with written consent. We just don't touch it. Section 9 is saying that you are not currently signed in this agreement with another Colorado licensed realtor. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And you have not received a list of submitted properties from a previous realtor?
No.
Okay, perfect. Section 10 are your rights to cancel and my rights to cancel. I leave that pretty open to both parties. If you need to cancel because you just don't plain like me, or you don't think I'm working in your best interests, please fire me. I work very hard to do great work for my clients, and I really enjoy what I do. So I don't want you to feel like you're locked in if you're really not enjoying the process or enjoying working with me. Sound fair?
Yep.
Perfect. Section 11, costs or services or products obtained from outside sources. This is saying I will not hire anybody and require you to pay for them. For example, the inspector, I will not hire them for you. I will connect you to them and you can talk with them. I'll schedule it once you're done, but you will ultimately go through the payment with them. Same thing for the appraisal. The lender will order that and they will send you the payment processing for it. Nobody else will be your responsibility to pay. Section 12 are brokerage services. These are all the things that we're required to do for you or going to do for you to find you that home. We leave it open to any and all deemed necessary to complete the transaction, just so we can get as creative as we need to find you a home. The next section down, 12.2, is saying that we are going to use our discretion of our calendar before showing you properties, although we're going to do it in a timely manner so that we don't miss out on any homes for you. I do have access to both IRIS and RE Colorado MLS, so you know that we will not be missing any data. Section 13 here says that we do have the ability to share your identity to third parties such as a lender or a title company without your prior written consent. Is that okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Section 14, disclosure of settlement services costs. The title company will typically 3, 4, or 5 days before closing send us a document showing everything that you'll be paying and receiving at closing for us to go through and confirm. Section 17, we will not be discriminating against anybody for any reason other than for price. Very easy and simple there. Section 18, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a CPA. So just know that if you need those people that we can suggest someone for you to work with, but it's not me. Section 19 is mediation. It's the free version of seeing an attorney. We have not had to use this or an attorney below, but just know that that service is available if you have a dispute with the seller. Again, section 21 are the additional provisions I'm writing in here that you, the buyer, are not required to pay the difference of the advertised success fee and the section 7.1.1 success fee of 3% if the advertised success fee is lower than 3%. So you're not bringing anything out of pocket. Sound fair?
Yep.
All right. Other than that, here at the bottom, just a couple of things to know. This is the whole agreement. There is nothing else. If there are any changes that you need to make, we'll do it on a separate piece of paper called an amend extend with broker. Other than that, there's a very few things that we cannot do for you. The last two things that we cannot do for you are tell you the quality of schools where you're looking, as it's subjective and it's not covered by our license. That can get us in big trouble. So I suggest you Google or look on local forums. I can suggest you where to look, but I cannot help you with that personally. And the last one is Megan's Law, which is the public facing website for the sex offender registry. If you're worried about where they live in your neighborhood, I cannot help you disclose to you where they are. I can't tell you if it's your next door neighbor. But if you are truly worried about it, you can go and Google that and find it yourself. I do not suggest doing that because they're everywhere. So any questions so far, Dan? All right. Well, that's the end of it here. Any comments, concerns, or questions for me about my team's ability to help you find your perfect home in the least amount of time for the least amount of money?
No, I don't have any questions.
Perfect. Well, all you need to do is sign here then. Once you and Jess sign, then I will be officially working on your behalf. And I look very much forward to working for both of you. And one last thing here for you guys is just want to let you know that I have 3 goals for us today and moving forward, and 2 of them benefit you and the third benefits us both. And I want to go through those with you and ask you if you have anything additional you'd like to add to them. Sound good?
Sure.
Perfect. So my first goal is to help you, of course, to buy a home for the best price in the shortest amount of time. Sound good?
Yep.
Perfect. The second goal is to make sure that you and Jess have nothing to worry about, that you're constantly being communicated with, and all 180 plus different things that happen in a real estate transaction are not your worry. My team and I are going to handle and take care of all those details so you'll have nothing to worry about. How does that sound?
That sounds ideal.
Excellent. Now, the third goal I'd say is a little bit selfish, but I do this with all my clients and it benefits us both because I only do business with people I know I'll enjoy and will work well with me. And my third goal is that before we close in your house, that you're going to refer me at least one more person like you that would be interested in buying or selling real estate. That's how I grow my business, is through doing business with people like you. Now, if I've accomplished all 3 of those things, I'm going to consider this transaction a huge, huge success. Is there anything, Dan, I didn't mention that you'd like to add to our list of goals?
No, not that I can think of.
Great. How do you feel about them? Good.
Being fair.
Perfect. Now let me ask you, who do you know that I should know that's also interested in buying or selling real estate?
I'll have to think about it, but I'll
Okay.
keep it top of my mind.
Well, I
going forward.
appreciate you thinking about that for me. And like I said, I'll be asking you a few more times throughout this transaction. It'll definitely be top of mind for you. But again, I appreciate you and your wife hiring me to work on your behalf. And just want to let you know what's next here is we're going to get started looking for homes. I'll change your search online to immediate. So as soon as homes in your criteria hit the market, I will have them in your inbox. Just know that's a fairly general search because the criteria is input by realtors and there are some mistakes. So if something specific pops up outside of that search or within it that I think is a perfect fit, I'm going to text that right on over to you both so that we have a chance to go see it as soon as possible. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. And what I'll do once we're done here is I'm going to email you over a form that just gets some of your information so that I can best work with you, best contact information, times a day, things like that. And that way we can, again, seamlessly and flawlessly work together. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, Dan, appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming to meet with me today. And I look forward to finding you and your wife your dream home.
All right. Thanks, Cody. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.